I'm investigating a
A
burglary.
burglary? What, these units?
Yeah. Yep. You need to prove that you are either renting or you own these storage units.
I don't need to prove anything
Yes,
to
you do.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer. Today's video comes to us from Mankato, Minnesota, which is in Blue Earth County. And so we have sort of a mixed bag of Mankato public safety officers along with a Blue Earth County deputy involved in the encounter we're getting ready to watch. Now, the original video was posted by a YouTube channel with the handle Nathan7518. And that appears to be a channel bearing a branded logo for a pressure washing company called Perfect Clean Pressure Washing in Mankato, Minnesota. Now, I've edited the video quite a bit for the sake of time and only included the portions relevant to our discussion. But I suggest that you go over to Nathan's channel, give him the credit he deserves, and show support to him for exercising his rights. And if you happen to live in that area and need pressure washing services, give him a shout and help support his business. Now, let's watch some of the video and we'll come back and talk about the law.
Okay, I need your ID.
What's your name?
My name's Officer Strong. My badge number is 3139.
You're on private property here.
I need to see an ID.
And you're on private property.
Yeah, I need your
You
name
were
and
never
date of birth.
called.
I need your name and
And
date
you
of
were
birth.
never called.
I'm
You're on
investigating
private
a
property.
burglary. I'm investigating a
A
burglary.
burglary? What, these units?
Yeah. Yep. You need to prove that you are either renting or you own these storage units.
I don't need to prove anything
Yes,
to
you do, because it's a suspicious circumstance.
You're on private property. You're coming here to tell me that I'm under investigation.
Okay, well, here's another
When these
officer.
are my two units, I don't care. I don't care.
Yep.
What you're doing is
I need-
completely illegal.
I need your
And if
ID.
you detain me
Okay,
at all,
what's your name and date of birth?
you guys, I'm not giving you anything.
You're
not
detained
giving
right now.
you anything.
You are detained right now.
For what?
Okay.
For what?
I need to see your ID.
I'm not giving you my ID.
So
I'm not giving you anything, and you don't even have the right to look in here either. And honestly, I would like your name and badge number as well. First of all, this is private property. Private property. He was never called here, and I do actually
Okay, sir.
rent these two units. And so he comes here and tells me I need to give him my information. My information.
Problem for you to give me your name and
I don't need to give you anything.
Yes, you do.
I'm not doing anything criminal or wrong. These are my two units.
Okay, well, it looks to me like it could be a burglary.
I don't care. First of all, you're not. First of all, you're not even. This is private property. You are not supposed to be patrolling private property. There was no call to come here. You just decided to be an asshole and drive through.
Yeah.
You know, no.
Okay, so
no.
this is what,
Sorry.
you're gonna give
So
me your name and date
wait a
of birth?
second.
Or
I'm
gonna
not
bring you
giving
to the
you.
county
I don't
for
got to give you
fingerprints.
anything. I did nothing wrong.
Just give me a second. All right, listen to me.
I did nothing
Hey,
wrong.
just give me a second, okay? You asked my name, Deputy Schnorberg, Blue Earth County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, that's fine.
2706, okay?
I'm not giving any info. I did nothing
I
wrong.
didn't ask you for any info. I asked you to listen.
Okay, what do you have to say?
Can you do that?
I don't
we have
really,
a
I don't really
respectful
need to.
conversation
You're both on private property.
Do you own this
so
private property?
I rent these
Yes
two
or no,
units.
do you own this private property?
Do you?
No, I don't.
So what gives you the right to patrol it?
The fact that we patrol this
Wait,
all
do
the
they
time.
pay you to patrol it?
Is it in Blue Earth County?
It doesn't matter if it's
Is
in
it in
Blue Earth County.
Okay, so first of all, this is pretty obviously an illegal detention, and it should be fairly obvious to most of you that Officer Strong here is a rookie. Now, being a rookie is not a bad thing because it means you're still impressionable. You might still want to do the job for the right reasons, for instance. You might not have yet realized how much of a swamp you decided to wade through for $20 an hour, and there is still hope for you. Rapidly dissipating hope, but hope nonetheless. You can always tell a rookie officer, and sadly, it's for doing things that you wish a more seasoned officer would do. Specifically, that is to take a step back and try and figure out whether they're right or not before they continue on. Sadly, only the rookies do it, and they do it because they're unsure of themselves, which people like us can sense, and then we all know they're new, because the new ones are seemingly the only ones these days who actually consider whether they're right or wrong. So Strong here decides when he doesn't really know how to handle Nathan to triangle his fellow officer, Deputy Schnorenberg, from the Blue Earth County Sheriff's Office into the mix. But he makes a pretty big mistake before he does that, and he actually tells Nathan he's detained. Well, the problem with that is that we know, based on Terry versus Ohio and its progeny, that we need reasonable articulable suspicion that criminal activity is afoot before we can do an investigatory detention legally. Remember that reasonable articulable suspicion is based on the facts and information known to the officer at the time of the seizure. So what are those facts in this case? Well, we have officers doing a routine patrol through a storage unit lot that has at least partially unlimited access because it's already dark and there doesn't appear to be any gates or anything to keep people out, and the officers make several mention of the fact that you can just drive through. So Officer Strong has decided, I guess because it's dark and Nathan has the doors up on his storage units, that this is suspicious and a potential burglary, and he believes that's cause for an investigatory detention and a request for ID. Again, the problem with that is that his suspicion is not reasonable, and despite the fact that he had multiple officers on scene to ensure his safety, he didn't do any sort of investigation. Instead, he allowed his ego to cause him to engage in unproductive arguments with Nathan.
Are you paid to patrol?
Is it in?
Are you paid to patrol private property?
Yes.
No, you're not. That's a lie. You think I'm stupid? I know the laws. You guys are not paid to patrol private property. In fact, you can actually only come on private property if you're factually called because there's an issue.
Now, I do want to clear up one thing that's been stated by Nathan here, and that is that the police do not have a right to patrol private property without being called. With all due respect to Nathan, that is not correct. And as we explored in a previous video, a person renting a particular space within a piece of private property has dominion over the rented space. So they have inferior rights to the property owner as it relates to the rest of the property and excluding other people from the common areas, and this does include the police. Now, certainly the owner of the property could come along and tell the police that they're not to be patrolling the lot without getting a call, but not very many property owners would do that. In fact, it could present a shift of liability to a property owner, say if somebody's property gets broken into and stolen, and it were to come out in discovery that that property owner excluded the police from doing any sort of proactive patrol in the area. It could be seen as enhancing the liability on the property owner. So most property owners are not going to tell the police that they don't want them on the property. It's ultimately a crime deterrent, whether you like the police or whether you don't. In fact, if you think about it, on some level, any business a police would patrol and check for people lurking and loitering would all be private property, whether that's in the city or along the business district or the manufacturing district or whatever you want to call it. The dynamic doesn't change simply because it's a storage unit. And for all we know, and in fact the officers allude to it at some point in this video, that the owners of the storage facility have called and asked them to do extra patrols there. Either way, unless the police have information directly from the property owner that they are not welcome to patrol proactively, then they can patrol proactively. It's not completely unreasonable to make a second pass here and check out a vehicle or a person at the facility. What is unreasonable is Strong's approach to the situation. And it's the exact reason he's found himself in this pickle, where Nathan has challenged his authority to do what he's trying to do, and Strong is kind of stuck. Nathan does a great job of keeping these guys in check. Let's watch some more.
You can't come, you cannot come on private property to check if a door is open. No, and if you guys want to go there, I'm going to sue the shit out of this county because I got you both on camera. So you think you're with a guy that doesn't know the laws, who wasn't doing anything wrong, that these are his 2 units. You come in here demanding my ID for what?
I didn't demand anything. I'm just asking you to
I have my door open.
Okay.
And so he's sitting here saying there's an investigation on a burglary.
I don't know anything about that. I'm just trying to get.
No, that's what you said.
Talking level here.
You said I was under an investigation for a burglary. Now you got 4 cops here.
This is one of my biggest pet peeves about law enforcement in general. Think back to how this deputy became primary in the conversation. He sort of gently told the rookie, Strong, to stand down, and then he took over. Except almost immediately, he proves that he doesn't have the ability to de-escalate either, because the first thing he does is start his own pissing battle with the guy by telling him all he told him to do was listen. He didn't ask him for information. And then instead of just letting that be, he has to take that sort of commandeering, dominant, are you able to do that? And then he loses the momentum of the opportunity to be the voice of reason in this situation. So Nathan starts picking apart their case, showing them he's not a pushover, and Deputy Schoenberg says, well, I don't know anything about that. And that's the problem. Instead of trying to find out exactly why this guy is detained, what Strong's suspicion is based on, and having a private conversation with the initiating officer, he's there blindly defending the officer's conduct, even though he just admitted that he doesn't even know what's going on or why they're there. This will be a running theme as more officers engage with Nathan, and he puts each and every one of them on their heels. Now, one thing that Nathan gets absolutely right is that he has no obligation whatsoever to show a single one of them anything at all, nor to explain his presence or dispel their suspicions. Again, it's not unreasonable for Strong to investigate. It is unreasonable, and not very smart, by the way, for him to take a demanding approach to investigating. By doing that, he's creating a confrontational dynamic where there doesn't need to be one, and if his combatives aren't any better than his investigative acumen, he might should learn how to talk to people. Well, he's going to learn. It just looks like he's going to learn the hard way. Had he approached Nathan and said, hey man, I'm Officer Strong, you know, we get extra patrol requests from the property owner here from time to time because they've been having some break-ins around here. So I just wanted to make contact with you, say hey, let you know we're around. And I was just curious, are you a renter here? Do you have units or anything like that? I guarantee you that had he taken that approach, this encounter would have gone much differently. I suspect Nathan would have been like, yeah, man, I have these 2 units right here and I'm actually just closing up for the night or getting some stuff for a job or whatever the situation is. But instead, Strong takes a strong approach, ironically, and it ends very poorly for him because all he really has is what the court in Terry referred to as an unparticularized hunch. And that hunch is based in part on the flawed notion that everybody who might be in a storage facility at night is somehow a criminal. Objectively, and clearly based on very little law enforcement experience, he thinks Nathan is breaking into the storage buildings. Now, a more experienced officer might have taken notice, as I did when the camera panned, that there is a padlock on the door of the storage unit and the lock has been clearly opened with a key. That's a pretty good indication that he has lawful access to that building. Now again, it gets tricky. What if it's not Nathan we're talking about here? What if Nathan uses these buildings to store supplies for the pressure washing business and he has an employee, say, named Joe, who has Nathan's key, and he asks Joe to go over and get supplies for a job they plan on doing early the next morning when they won't have time to go to the storage building beforehand? Joe has no way to dispel the officer's suspicions. He has a key, he clearly has access, but he's not a tenant, he's not on the lease, he doesn't have a contract, any of that. Where these officers often get themselves into trouble is by commingling crimes with civil issues. Once they find out he has access and they still want to ID him, they want to try and regulate who's supposed to have access and who isn't. If someone's violating the access terms of a rental agreement in a storage facility, that's a civil matter, and it's not the business of the police unless it's pursuant to a valid court order. Let's continue.
Because my door was open and I wouldn't give you my ID, and I'm not giving any of you my ID, and this is going to be YouTube like you wouldn't believe. I'm going to blow this whole up all over the goddamn county. I'm going to get all of your badge numbers. I'm going to get all your names because I have done nothing wrong except being at my own 2 units. And he came here saying he was investigating a burglary.
So, sir, my name's Maria.
I don't need to know your name.
That's fine. I'm just letting you know. So we have a lot of complaints of criminal activity.
Yeah, that's fine.
Here. So we do a lot of loops through it just to make sure that things aren't awry.
Yeah, so what I do?
So we just wanted to talk to you because normally people only have...
Yeah, my question is, why are officers coming through here patrolling a private property? First of all, who pays you to patrol a private property?
Sometimes we have requests from owners.
Did you have a request tonight?
We don't need requests at this specific time. It's extra.
No, actually, no. Wait a second. So you're saying owners can just have cops come in and request private property searches? Really? So who pays for that? Who pays? No, who pays for cops to patrol this parking lot?
We're just coming through the
Who
lot to
pays?
make sure.
What taxpayers pay for cops to patrol private parking lots? I'm just curious.
Now, towards the end of the encounter, Wagner here pops in, and she does the best job of any of them at trying to talk to him. What she says is reasonable. The problem is that Nathan is beyond interested in having a consensual conversation at this point. He's been detained for no reason, and he is basically rolling heads.
There was no calls. He even admitted it. He said he was coming through just doing his local patrolling.
Yes, we absolutely.
Oh, wait a second. No, you're not supposed to patrol
We are.
regular
We are. That's our
private
job.
areas. You guys can bring in, I mean, how many cops do you want to bring in?
When we have...
Like Jesus, we got 1,
When
2,
we have a
3,
high crime
4,
area,
5,
come in and
6,
do
7.
And there's actually a guy in the back that you see sort of briefly who has obviously been around a while and has no interest in the incoming IA investigation or the viewership on YouTube taking this situation in with his face squarely in view of the camera. And he smartly turns his back and disappears from the camera's view.
This is illegal as hell.
It's
A
not.
guy at his unit on private property
Okay, sir,
with
you just
no
have to
call,
prove that
with
you have
no
permission to
call.
be here.
And Young Buck, no call. You just
Okay,
decided to
what's
pull
your
through
name?
here.
What's
I don't
your
need
name?
to tell you my name.
I need to know that you have
I don't need to
permission
tell
be
you
here.
my name.
Okay,
I
if
don't
you
need to
tell
give
me
you
names,
in.
We're going to detain you.
You need me to tell me
Yeah, we need to know that
my
you have
name
permission
on
to be here.
private property in front of my unit? Huh. Okay, this is gonna be rich.
How do I
Dude,
know
you
it's your
understand
unit?
you're gonna get fired for
How-
this?
how do I know
you
that
will
this
get
is your
fired?
unit, sir?
You will not only get fired,
No.
you
No, you're...
Blue Earth County will be sued the shit out for this.
Okay.
This is the shit that goes viral on YouTube. Do you understand?
So what I'd like to do for you, sir, I'd like for us to get out of your hair.
Yeah,
okay?
get out of my hair.
I see that you've got the locks unlocked. That looks like...
Get out of my hair then.
I just want to let you know what we're...
Does it look like I'm robbing shit?
I just
Where's
want-
my truck? Where's my shit? This is actually all my stuff.
Perfect. I just want to let you know what we want to do. I don't want to.
What is it that you want to do?
I don't want to get you any more hung up tonight. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to follow up with the owners tomorrow and make sure that it's your name that's registered on these 2 units, because I don't want somebody to call in tomorrow and report that there's been a burglary.
Well, that's my name on these 2
Okay,
units.
Perfect. Okay.
I don't need to tell you my name.
Okay, that's totally fine.
More dumb things. So Strong steps back up. He can't really help himself but to say more dumb things. He says he needs Nathan to give his name so he can be sure that he's the person who is on the lease. Well, here's the problem, and this drives me absolutely crazy that cops don't understand this. Telling a cop who you are does not prove you're not committing a crime. It does not prove that you are a lessee at a storage facility unless they have a list of tenants that they can cross-reference. And back to our discussion earlier, some employee somewhere who just got access via a key from the owner wouldn't have any way to prove who they are or that their access is legitimate. The only reason for ID is to run these guys for warrants, and Nathan is right to refuse this. Now, the female officer has clearly been around a little while longer. She takes notice of the fact that Nathan has used the key to open the locks and says they'll follow up with the rental company the following day to make sure he is the lessee. Again, though, they're on the fringe of involving themselves in a civil matter in the interest of furthering an unreasonable investigation. I mean, what do you think the odds are that they'll just ask the property owner the next day who rents the units? Or do you think they'll say, yeah, your tenant really gave us a hard time last night. We were trying to protect your property and he refused to cooperate with us. Suppose then that the property owner cancels Nathan's lease and he can't find another unit to meet his needs. Then the officer has taken an unreasonable investigation, used it to violate Nathan's Fourth Amendment rights, and then followed up with intentionally interfering with a business contract, which in some states, like Tennessee, is something a person can be sued for. So as you can see, Nathan basically takes his toll on all of these people, and they eventually get tired of dealing with him and decide they're going to leave for the evening after he tells every single one of these officers off and anybody they might know to spread the message that he is not to be messed with at the storage unit. He did a really good job of standing on his rights. He was wrong about some things as it relates to the law. His arguments were basically that he has an issue with the fact that the cops are patrolling private property and not being paid by the property owner. But the thing is, most of the crime happens on private property or to private property. So you have to sort of logically work your way through that. Police don't just not investigate property crime because it belongs to somebody else. Almost everything belongs to other people. So if you really think about it, any sort of enforcement action taken on behalf of a property owner is an enforcement action related to private property. So it's not a very good argument to say, well, we don't pay you guys for this. That's exactly within their job description. In closing, one of the biggest problems I see with policing in 2024 is a complete inability for officers to sort of see the big picture. These officers, even if you could say that they were doing what they were doing out of a genuine concern for the property, they don't seem to understand the big picture. They don't understand what's required under Terry or what Minnesota law says they can demand ID for, which I didn't really cover it, but it's basically in line with Terry. You have to have reasonable articulable suspicion of criminal activity. They are going to interfere with the business relationship, and I guarantee that they will not say nice things about Nathan, and it will all be because they can't see that they approached the situation the wrong way at the outset. All of these guys were more concerned about justifying their actions than they were with figuring out whether their actions were justified. Let me say that again. There is a big difference between blindly trying to justify the actions you've already taken and taking a second to reflect on whether your actions are actually justified. If you reflect first, then you don't have to worry about justifying your actions. Davy Crockett famously said, "Be always sure that you are right and then go ahead." So again, getting it right is more important than explaining that you are right. Now again, sort of halfway kudos to the female officer, Officer Wagner. In my estimation, she did the best job of communicating and de-escalating, and in my personal experience, it's always the female officers that I worked around that were better at communicating and de-escalating situations. I can't personally say what it's like now because I have several videos on my own channel featuring tyrannical female officers, but I still see more females doing better community policing than men. To her credit, though, Wagner seemed to be the most reasonable officer on scene. I really struggle with how to find a solution to this type of stuff. My inclination is that there needs to be designed a training program to teach officers how to be constitutionally intentional about the way that they approach investigatory detentions. But that is inherently a double-edged sword. I can promise you that if I were to put on a badge today, I could go out onto the street right now with what I understand about criminal procedure. I could do everything for the wrong reasons. I could use pretextual purposes to profile whoever I want and know exactly what to say in court to be sure that it's always justified. So there's always sort of a downside or potential hazard in teaching them how to work through the proper constitutional framework, because the dishonest among their ranks will use that knowledge as a weapon to wreak havoc on the people they're sworn to serve. We've all heard the phrase, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's what I'm talking about here. If they knew what they were doing, their work wouldn't squeak, and we wouldn't be able to anecdotally apply grease and hold them accountable. So in some ways, the improper police work is sort of the cough that is the symptom of an underlying cold. And I don't know that if we cure that illness through education, whether it will actually be cured or whether they'll just get better at suppressing the cough. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. The optimist in me would like to think that it would reduce bad policing so much that we would be able to weed out through other means and policy and complaints and IA investigations and that kind of thing, that the juice might still be worth the squeeze, but it's really hard to say. The only thing I know to do is to continue to try to do the right thing and make sure they get a proper education, and hope that our recruiting mechanisms are bringing the right people in such that their disposition is that they'll try to do the right thing by the people. Anyway, that's all for this one, guys. Thanks for sticking it out. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave me a comment on the video. Check out some of the other videos on the channel and leave me a comment on there as well. We're approaching 10,000 subscribers. I think we're sitting at about 9,600 today. In the coming weeks, we're going to be making some channel announcements about some different things, some different video types that we're going to be doing, some channel memberships, and some different stuff to sort of help us grow. But I really appreciate you guys, really appreciate your support. Until I see you again, take care. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.